Okay, so this is how I structure my training week. I'm going to walk you through my actual split, exercises I do, and how I manage volume. But before I get into the details, I need to make something clear. The structure itself is not what matters most. What matters is that this is a structure I can execute consistently week after week at a high intensity. The split I use, the exercise I choose, the days I train, these are all secondary to the fact that I show up and push every working set to 0 or 1 rep in reserve. So I'm not sharing this because I think you should copy it exactly. I'm sharing it because seeing a concrete example of what a simple, sustainable training looks like might help you build your own approach. So let's get to it. All right. I train a full body 3 times per week, sometimes twice if I need extra recovery, but usually three. I space my sessions about 48 hours apart. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The specific days doesn't matter as long as I'm getting consistent training frequency throughout the week. Every session hits every major muscle group. I'm training legs, back, chest, shoulders, and arms all in one workout. This might sound like a lot, but because I'm training each muscle group multiple times per week, I don't need to do a ton of volume in every single session. The volume. Here's where my approach gets a little bit more flexible. The volume I do shifts from week to week based on how I'm actually recovering and what proximity to failure I'm actually hitting. Some weeks I'm genuinely just doing 1 set per exercise, just one. But that 1 set is a true 0 RIR set, where I'm completely pushing to failure. Other weeks I might do 2 sets for some exercises, and maybe even three, depending on what RIR I'm training to. Let me give you an example of how this works in practice. If I do a set of squats and I'm completely obliterated, my legs are shaking, and I can barely walk from the rack, I might just do 1 set, and that's usually the case. I'm not locked into that specific set or rep scheme like 3 sets or 10 that I have to hit no matter what. I'm usually just locked into the principle of training to failure and doing as much volume as I actually need and can recover to while maintaining the same or even greater intensity. If I'm too sore to train after 48 hours, I take an extra day. I usually wait 48 hours between sessions, but if I need the 72 hours, then I take it. And if I want to implement a deload week, and I don't want to change my exercise selection or skip the gym entirely, I would usually just stick to 1 set per movement instead of even trying for two or three. And then I train twice that week or even 1 time that week instead of 3 times. This gives me a lower overall volume while maintaining the intensity and keeping the same patterns consistent. Structure works for me because I can execute it without having to think too much about my programming. I don't have to spend time planning elaborate splits or rotating exercises or optimizing my rest days. I just show up to the gym, do the same movements I've been doing, and focus on pushing them harder than I did the week before. Every training session is exactly what it is. It's training. It's not a performance. It's not a show for social media. I'm practicing the skill of training to failure and the skill of showing up consistently. And because it's practice, it's not going to look pretty. It's not going to look effortless. It's going to look like work because that's exactly what it is. The specific exercise selection really doesn't matter as much as the effort you're putting in. You could go to almost any gym, pick any machine that targets your chest, shoulders, back, legs, and arms. Train those movements to failure, chase progression through added reps or added weight, and use a full range of motion, and you would be surprised at how much progress you can make. You'll make more progress doing that with basic movements at high intensity than you would following some optimal program that you can execute at 3 reps in reserve because you're not actually pushing yourself. So that's my training structure. Full body, 3 times a week, same basic movements, volume adjusted based on recovery, every set pushed to 0 to 1 RIR. But here's what I want you to take away from this. Don't idolize this specific split. Don't copy my exact exercise selection and think that's the key. This is just structure that works for me, the structure I can execute consistently without overthinking it. You need to build your own version based on what you have access to and what you can sustain long term. Pick movement patterns you can perform safely. Choose exercises that are available at your gym. Structure your training in a way that you'll actually show up week after week. And then once you have that structure in place, push those movements to failure every single week. Do that consistently for weeks, and then for months, and then years. That's what actually matters. Not the split itself, not the exercise selection, the execution, the intensity, and the consistency is what matters. If you need an environment where people understand that the structure is secondary and the execution is everything, where the focus is on training hard consistently rather than optimizing programs endlessly, link in the description, let's train.